Welcome to the first beer video of 2024, and we're kicking things off with something from Old Bavaria. Hello and welcome back to the channel, and yes, we are kicking things off this year with another German beer. This one is from Ainger, and to be honest, well, I wanted to do this one because I didn't feel like I just featured Ainger enough last year. They're actually one of my favourite German brewers, but because they're not one of the main Oktoberfest kind of producers, they didn't get included in that series, and whilst there may have been one or two earlier in the year, they just didn't really get the coverage I think they deserve. This beer though is their 5% Altbairisch Dunkel, and that actually means Old Bavarian dark beer. Dunkel being dark beer, and Altbairisch, which I'm going to try and limit how many times I have to pronounce, is Old Bavarian. The reason for that name is because this beer is basically how it was brewed pre-World Wars. Before the World Wars, despite now Bavaria being known for, well, Munich lagers and, you know, Oktoberfest beers and kind of, generally speaking, lighter coloured beers, actually dark beer was the way pre-war, and this one represents just that. So will it be a Dunkel like any other, or is this going to have some significant old school flair? Well, I guess we're going to find out, but first a quick look at the bottle. It is in the distinctly traditional Ainger style. All of them follow this kind of almost pump clip format with the label and the obvious German recycled beer. You can see the track lines around the top there. A bit of info on the back, which I'll say we'll get into later, but actually it's all in German, so we might be a little bit limited to what we can pick out from it. But yeah, there we go. A solid looking German beer to kick things off this year. Oh, and as always, they have very nice bottle caps. It looks like a Dunkel, it smells like a Dunkel, although maybe a smidge lighter than some more recent ones I've had. Right then, that is the entire beer in the glass, and two things are quite apparent. It does look very dark on camera, but for me it's a distinctly kind of chestnutty, almost kind of reddish mahogany kind of colour, and it's not the darkest thing going. I don't know really how it's coming across, but it looks certainly on my monitor like it's really dark for you, but I can guarantee it's not. It's almost like deep, rich caramel, best bitter coloured, to compare it to some UK styles. And the aroma actually, as it kind of settled for a minute and continued to kind of explore itself around the room, well, it is Dunkelish, but it had a bit more brightness to it. It wasn't as deep and rich maybe as some others I've tried recently, but yeah, let's get into it properly, shall we? So, aromas. Off the bat, it's immediately bright, sugary caramel. It's like big, rich, sweet, but not depthy, not intense, not dark, not treacle-like. It's much more bright. It's got a bit of hop character to it that's actually, now I'm trying to analyse it, I think might not be hop at all. It's got this kind of red berry fruity note that isn't uncommon in German beers, but I think that might be a bit of a mix of the yeast and the malts. And actually, whilst I'm certain the hop value is giving a bit of freshness, a bit of kind of, you know, general outdoorsy vibes, they're not strong, they're not intense, they're no particular note. It's just maybe helping lifting everything up a bit and stopping it feeling a bit twiggy. Right then, let's get into it, shall we? Cheers. That is charming. My first reaction to a sip of that is, I could drink that all night long. Like, it is just sweet but balanced, super malty, which is my preference. You know, if you are hoping for a high hop German beer, this ain't it, but it has got that really depthy, almost over the top malty base that you get from a lot of German beers, but it just cuts short of being too much, and as a result, for me, just seems just, well, yeah, infinitely sessionable. There's some nice berry notes in there. It's slightly fruity, but yeah, and it has this charm. It is obviously of a previous generation. It's not gone, you know, all beer kind of created since maybe the mid-70s has been significantly more hop forward than this, at least as a generic style. There are of course exceptions, but you know what I mean? They've all got a bit more hop character because the development of hops has come on so much. But this, being kind of designed around the era that it was, early 1910s. Is that the era? Yeah. Yeah, it's got that this distinctly more, I don't want to say simplistic, because the flavour's there in heaps and bounds. It's just, it's doing it almost all with the malt and the bit of the yeast, and the hop that's in there is just, as I say, for a bit of brightness, a bit of freshness, and a little bit of bittering. It's not about the flavour from the hops itself. Right then, I'll stop gassing on about it and actually tell you what it all tastes like. So, top to bottom taste test time. Initially, right on the tip of the tongue. Decent carbonation, tiny bit of bitterness, and something that's quite reminiscent of like a wholemeal, almost all bran kind of malt, like almost the point of cardboardy, but it just saves itself. It's a little bit sweeter, and to be honest, it is very nice. I'm digging it quite a lot. Then over the first third, that all branny bit kind of carries on, but it kind of mellows out a touch, and you start to get a few brighter notes. The bitterness disappears, but what you do get is this super soft, grassy, fresh. I say it's outdoorsy. I'm pretty sure it's the hop, and it's so muted. It's like it's not even big grassy. It's like just a hint, an absolute kind of peppering of those fresh, outdoorsy, slightly vegetal, but so soft, so fresh, almost sweet grass. You know, like freshly mowed, you know, late spring grass. Like it's that kind of thing. I feel like I'm over-egging the grass thing a bit, but you know what I mean. It's really low down. You barely notice it if you were just sat there drinking it, but it is in there, and it is helping just keep everything from becoming too sweet and too malt focused, although in my mind that doesn't really exist. Give me all of the malt. But anyway, across the mid palate, a little bit of that bitterness kicks back in, and you get a load of berry notes. It's proper blackcurrant, bit of raspberry, all those kind of, yeah, summer berries vibes, really. It's really nice. Again, stops the malt from taking over completely, and it's still sweet, but the bitterness is there, it's balancing, and it just, again, helps to balance out something to become as sessionable as this is. And balance, as always, is the key word we're looking for. And for me, I don't want to say this is a really well-balanced beer, because it is very sweet and malt-leaning, but it's not too sweet, it's not too malty, at least for me. But the hop heads out there might be disappointed. But in my mind, balance, yes, it certainly is. And then onto the back of the tongue. Carbonation picks up a little bit. A lot of the flavour dies down. The fruitiness goes away. But you do get this nice, soft, super, again, fresh, oddly is the word, fresh caramel. It's kind of what was on the Aroma. It's like this experience of a caramelly, or not quite fudgy, but yeah, it's just caramel sweetness, but without getting the rich, sticky, intense bit of caramel. It's just kind of the soft tones from it. And then on the aftertaste, malt kicks back in, but once again we're in that kind of heavy all brand territory. It's not super sweet, it's a bit more dark, a bit more robust, and just kind of a light mineral finish. I was about to say, what's weird about this beer compared to so many other of the German ones that I've reviewed recently is that almost all of them were kind of predictable in that you get a nice bit of malt up front, and then you get a load of kind of the quality water profile, mineral forwardness in the middle, and then you'd finish off with like either bready or biscuity malt. This isn't bready, this isn't biscuity, it's distinctly all brand kind of malt style. And actually, with the exception of that bit right at the end, you don't really see the water quality either. I'm sure it's the same water, it's the same stuff, but for whatever reason, it isn't really showing through. I think it's being dominated by that kind of fruity note in the middle, is where that would normally show itself. But it is different. It is a thing of the past, and it's damn tasty, if I'm totally honest. It's certainly not the most biggest, brashest, impressive thing that Ainger have ever done, but at the same time, as I said, it's got charm. It has real charm. It's a character beer, this. It's just got something about it. There's not a lot of other stuff that feels like it right now in this time and day, and as a result, yeah, I could definitely see myself buying a few more. It's a funny one. You're definitely not going to rave on about it forever and ever and ever, but it's got this homely, honest, back to basics, just enjoyable factor about it that, yeah, I'm really struggling to describe any better than that. Right then, let's take a quick look at the bottle and see if we can learn anything more. So as I said, this is the Altbairisch Dunkel, or Old Bavarian Dark Beer. It is from Ainger. It is 5%. Probably unsurprisingly, the only ingredients are water, malted barley, hops, and yeast. And that is really all it says. It's just got their details in and the ingredients in many other languages. it's solid. It is absolutely solid. It is a big thumbs up from me, actually. This, in terms of just appealing to my tastes, yes, love it, indefinitely. Don't think everyone will be as enamored by it, but if you sit down with this thinking, you know, this is a taste of the past, something about, you know, to understand how beer used to be many years ago, we're talking basically nearly 100 years ago now for this recipe, if not more, then yeah, it certainly has its charm. And that really is all I've got to say about it. So as always, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like it. If you haven't already, subscribe if you will be so kind. And I'll catch you next time. Cheers.